Welcome to Cheat the Spread, powered by 613 Sports.
Welcome everybody to the first ever episode of Cheat the Spread, brought to you by 613 Sports. You already know me, I'm Cameron Chadad. You see me from the main channel usually, but we have a new face with us here today. So Jack, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Jack Lovett. I'm a third-year journalism student at Carleton. Me and Cam are in the same program. We're both avid sports fans. I was a member of the Carleton Ravens Ultimate Frisbee team before COVID-19 sort of ruined everything athletic-wise, but we're both really into NFL. We've both become increasingly interested in gambling, and we want to sort of share any insights we can have, hash out ideas for bets, and maybe help you guys out in the process. So that's what we're saying.
For sure. So, Jack and I, we like to indulge a little bit in the sports gambling side of things. COVID hasn't helped with that. A little bored these days. Got to find some way to bring excitement into our lives. So, we figured why not share our degenerate habits with YouTube, and hopefully we can win you guys some money as well. So make sure you keep an eye on all of our picks, and hopefully we can win everybody some money this week. With this being our first show, Jack and I are going to try and stick with what we know best. So hopefully we can start off on the right foot. So with that said, we're just going to be doing NFL picks this week, with a little bit of a look towards the future as well. And then in the weeks going forward, we'll be adding in some college basketball, college football, hockey, that sort of thing as it gets started up again. But for now, just football so we don't embarrass ourselves too hard on weekends.
Sounds like a good idea to me, Cam. All right, so to kick things off, our first segment of the day is going to be Overreactions and Underreactions, where we take a look at the public, at the betting lines, at the sports books, and we see what they're overreacting to, what they think mattered too much, and what they didn't pay enough attention to the past week. And I'll start us off with my overreaction. I think the easy answer for most people would be Pittsburgh catching points after their first loss. An undefeated team loses once, now they're an underdog. But I disagree. I think Pittsburgh is an overvalued team. I think that if you look at a lot of their past weeks, I think Baltimore should have beat them, and Lamar sort of threw that game away. I think you look at the Dallas game where that was a debacle. I would take Buffalo in this game. Obviously, I'm a bit biased. I don't know if you see the Bills poster behind me.
No, in case you guys couldn't tell, Jack's a little bit of a Bills fan.
A little bit of a Bills fan, yeah. I should actually establish my family had season tickets. Well, it's on hold with COVID, but I am a Bills fan, so that's my bias. But my overreaction is Arizona, which was laying 1.5 points to the Giants earlier today. Arizona is a better team than the Giants. They're in a bad spell. They're not playing well. And I think going to New York, MetLife Stadium, is going to be a welcome trip away from Stadium, Arizona. I think they need a refresh. And the Cardinals are actually better on the road. They're 8-4-2 ATS on the road under head coach Cliff Kingsbury. Cardinals might get Fitzgerald back, but I just think Kyler gets right here. Hopefully he can shake off the injury, and that's my overreaction this week.
Facts. I do have Hopkins on my fantasy team, so hopefully let's see him go off first week of the playoffs. But going into my underreaction, I'm going to have to go with the Chargers only being 2.5-point underdogs to the Falcons. I think we saw last week what happens when you put too much faith in the Chargers against the Patriots. Somehow they were favorites going into that game. Easiest money I ever made in my life betting on the Patriots. 45-0. Anthony Lynn just doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, let's be honest. Chargers are a good team. They're set up well with Herbert and Keenan Allen, all these nice, good players they have going forward. But as long as Anthony Lynn is the coach, you should be betting against this team. They should be much better than they are. But with Lynn and just the bonehead decisions he makes on defense, offense, everything, just game management, it's all around terrible. And the Falcons hung in there with the Saints this week. I mean, obviously, they're missing Julio. I think Julio played, but he's a little banged up. They're missing Todd Gurley. Or I think he might have played.
He might have played,
didn't play well. But anyways, they're both banged up. And they still hung in there with the Saints. The Saints are obviously a much better team. So I'm taking the Falcons as I think that people are underreacting to how bad the Chargers are and not putting enough stock in that beatdown the Pats gave them. I think we see the Falcons roll them, and 2.5 underdogs is way too low for the Chargers. They should be much more underdogs.
I'm with you. I think this is a surging Falcons team that's undervalued. If you look at a lot of the advanced stats, their third down conversion percentage is really good. I think their turnover margin is pretty good, red zone conversion. I think this is a spot where a veteran team just does better than an Anthony Lynn coach team, frankly. So that's where I'm going to go.
I would agree 100%. And then we're moving into our next segment here. Is going to be our stayaways of the week. So Jack and I are both going to pick teams. Sometimes we all have those teams we don't want to bet against. We just want to stay away from them completely. So we're going to get into our stayaways. For myself, this week is going to be the Saints and Eagles game. Honestly, the Eagles are not a bad team. I know Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson obviously kind of have some friction going on between the two of them, and it's just not working right now. But with Jalen Hurts starting, I think it's too big of an unknown. We don't know if Drew Brees is going to play or not. I don't think he will. I believe what I've heard is going to be Taysom Hill playing. And so with that said, I think Taysom Hill might be a little bit overrated. I don't think we can put that much trust into him just yet. And I think that Jalen Hurts is going to bring kind of a new, fresh energy to the Eagles. And they're not out of the playoff hunt yet. In the NFC least, they got a chance still. So I think Jalen Hurts could bring some electricity to that game. And I just want to see what he can bring first before we put kind of any bets against him or for him.
I think that's a reasonable call. For my stay away, I'm going to be going to the Colts in Las Vegas to face the Raiders. This is a weird game. These are two teams that I want to like the Raiders and I want to hate the Colts, and I don't know what I can do. Like, if this line was -3 either way, I'd be scared. Like, I lean Colts because they're the more consistent team, but I think the Raiders are the higher ceiling team. We see what they've done against the Chiefs. That's a divisional matchup, so there is the familiarity, but I don't want anything to do with this. I think the Raiders are hungry. So I could see either thing happening. This is my stay away. Obviously, you see I'm hesitant.
I mean, unfortunately for the Raiders, Greg Williams does not coach for the Colts. But the Colts do have Phillip Rivers back there at QB, so that's a tough game, I would agree.
Yeah. All right, so moving into our next segment, this is going to be one of the staples of our program. This is the Lock Dog Tease. If you watch football program and you know you got to lock a pickup, you got to pick a dog, and you've got to have a teaser for the week. In the NFL, teasing is a great option to get some value on the point spread. So Cam, why don't you start us off with yours?
For sure. So my lock of the week is going to be the Cowboys -3.5 versus the Bengals. I think the Cowboys might be a little bit of a overreaction as well. Obviously, we saw them lose to the Ravens. And, you know, they're not a good team. They're really not. I hate betting on the Cowboys. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Andy Dalton is a very serviceable quarterback. And they just have way too many offensive weapons. You know, you got Zeke, you got CeeDee Lamb, you have Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, all these amazing players back there on offense. And the Bengals are going to be missing Joe Mixon. Obviously, we know Joe Burrow's out. And the Cowboys' defense isn't that bad. Got to represent Ottawa on there on the D-line with Neville Gallimore, you know. And I think that the Cowboys honestly should win this game really easily. Again, them as well are not out of the playoff hunt yet in that terrible division. So I think the Cowboys are going to be motivated to try and show, you know what, listen, we're not going away easily. And I think they should smoke the Bengals this week.
I'm with you. And just to piggyback, the one thing the Ravens could do successfully was run the ball. Lamar had a field day. I think Dobbins had a field day. Unfortunately for the Bengals, they do not have Joe Mixon nor a capable offensive line. So that's just more evidence. I think the Cowboys roll. I'm with you. And for my lock, you know, I looked a couple different ways. I don't think this is a great week for locks personally, but I'm going to go with the Houston Texans laying a point to the Bears. So basically they just have to win. This is a Bears defense that started really strong. And after having the burden of Nick Foles as your quarterback on their back for a long time, I think they're just breaking. And Deshaun Watson versus Mitchell Trubisky or Foles, I mean, I just have to go with the more dynamic playmaker. Give me the Texans. I'll lay the point. I think they win the game.
I agree. And then going into my underdog pick of the week, I think it's a bit of a weaker week for underdogs. I think a lot of the teams that should win will win this week. But in terms of point spread, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins to cover that 7.5 point underdog spread against the Chiefs. I think Miami's been a little bit too underrated here. We don't know for sure who's going to play a QB for them, but I think they're being a little too underrated here. Their defense is really strong, and we've seen the Chiefs kind of, I wouldn't say struggle, but some defenses, such as the Raiders, have kind of figured out ways to slow them down this season. And I think Miami is a much more dynamic defense than the Raiders defense, and they've been really impressive so far this year, especially with Brian Flores at the coaching position. It's kind of just really helping them get them motivated for every game. And Miami is very much in the hunt for that division win with Buffalo. So kind of every game matters to them. So I could see them making this game a lot closer than people are expecting. And I would definitely anticipate them covering that 7.5 point spread.
Well, that makes me feel good because I did take them at that 7.5 spread when that line opened. I think it's now 7. So if you can still get that hook is huge to be able to lose by a touchdown at home with fans in South Florida, which it's South Florida. I mean, Governor DeSantis, do what you will. I guess it's a home field advantage for you. Yeah, I agree. I think an upset's not impossible. I think the Dolphins defense, you know, they beat the Rams. That was a bit of a fluky game, but I do think this is a feisty game. For my dog, I'm going to the Denver Broncos. And this is not a pick I was going to make initially, but I thought about it. Carolina team coming off a bye. Carolina's been really up and down, and Denver impressed me against the Chiefs last.
Also, not to interrupt you, but I'm just seeing now that Matt Rule does not expect Christian McCaffrey to play this week.
Right.
That's so developing, but he's not expected to play. He did not practice today either.
Yeah, and that helps my case, I guess. Mike Davis isn't bad, but the Denver defense is formidable. Denver dominated Miami, given Tua didn't look great in that game. They limited the Chiefs. The Chiefs' third down conversion percentage dropped significantly after last week's game. Their red zone dropped significantly. Part of that's being a division rival, so they have familiarity with the team. But this Denver team, they have weeks, like against the Patriots, when they slap the Patriots, against Miami, as I mentioned. I just think this team is feisty, and I'm getting 3 points. I'll take the Denver Broncos.
Fair enough, fair enough. And then going into our teaser, for those of you who don't know, might be some more newer sports gamblers. Basically, a teaser, the way it works is you kind of have to parlay the spread and the money line for the game, or not the money line, sorry, the over-under for the game. And basically, you can kind of shift it a little bit, so you can kind of like buy points essentially, where you can kind of move the line in your favor. But obviously, you have to hope that both your over and your spread hit. So it is an interesting way to kind of get some more value into football games. Jack kind of explained it to me a couple weeks ago, and I've been betting quite a bit on them recently, and it's been doing pretty well for me. So my teaser for this week is going to be Houston. I'm going to tease them all the way up to plus 5-point underdogs and over 39 points versus the Bears. I think, like Jack said, I agree with his lock, the Texans beating the Bears. So I think plus 5 is great value. And then over 39, I mean, when you have Deshaun Watson in a game, you kind of always have to take the over, especially at 39 points. That they can hit that in the first half. The Bears defense has not been doing much, and the Bears offense somehow always finds a way to put up some garbage time points no matter what. I think that's a pretty safe bet for this week.
I agree. I think the over is a great look in that game as well. Even at 45, I think Houston's going to put up maybe 27, and Texans can't stop the run, which I'm going to get to shortly. But yeah, I think the over is a great look there. For my teaser, this is actually probably my favorite play of the week. The more I've thought about it, I'm taking the Tennessee Titans down from 7.5 to 0.5, so they just have to win against Jacksonville. And I'm taking the over down to 46. AFC South matchups are generally shootouts. Neither of these teams is interested in playing much defense. Titans have won 6 of the last 7 meetings against Jacksonville. They're pissed after losing to the Browns. And the Jags can't stop the run. Not a great recipe to stop Derrick Henry. So I think he has a field day. I think Tennessee wins in a big one. And I want to sprinkle in some bonus stuff. I have Atlanta and the Chargers over 49. I think that's a shootout. And I also have a Tampa teaser. I'm taking them down to 0.5 point and over 46.5 against the Vikings.
Very good bets. And then we're also going to get into a little bit of player prop bets for you guys if you're interested. Jackson, more of the prop bet kid on this show. He likes to get into that action a little bit more than me. So Jackson, I think you some prop bets for this week.
For sure. So obviously we're recording this on Thursday. We don't have access to the most current lines. Obviously with COVID, it throws another wrench into the equation. But I'm looking at the Houston-Chicago matchup, and I see value on both sides of the ball. As far as Houston, I think their tight ends might have a big day today. And Akins and Fells haven't been great. They haven't been consistent. But per game, the Bears are allowing 60 yards, almost 6 receptions, and almost a touchdown to tight ends per game. Those are all bottom 5. I had TJ Hawkinson over receiving yards last week. The over-under was set at 43.5. He had 84. So I slept pretty nice knowing that was going to hit early in the game. So yeah, I would take Jordan Akins. Darren Fells might be a decent play, but I'd take Akins up to 26 yards on the over, and maybe Fells up to 15 yards, anything higher than that. Fells is a bit more of a boomer bust play. Then on the other side of the ball, I'm looking at the Bears running backs. David Montgomery has been getting better. And on the other side of the ball, Houston's allowing the most rushing yards and touchdowns to opposing running backs. Now, given we both think Houston's going to be up in the game, so how much they'll be able to run the ball might be in question, but I think David Montgomery is trending up. He had a touchdown last week, 100 yards the week before. I think anytime touchdown, or maybe even first touchdown, considering the Bears might be down. I think there might be value there. I think there might be sneaky value on Cordarrelle Patterson, who last week had 59 yards on 10 carries and a touchdown. Bit of a boomer bust play, but I think there's potential there. And those are my plays.
Sure, and then we do have another segment we're going to be doing every week. Jack and I will have to agree on one pick. It's going to be our joint pick of the week. So we're going to track my personal record, Jack's personal record, and then our joint pick record. So for this week, our joint pick is going to be the Falcons minus 2.5 over the terribly coached Anthony Lynn's Los Angeles Chargers. We think that, like we mentioned before, the Chargers aren't going to do much in this game. They could put up a lot of points, but we don't think that Anthony Lynn will be able to game manage well enough to be able to secure a victory here. And minus 2.5 is always a pretty decent bet. Most sports gamblers play. That's usually a pretty good line to kind of target. We think that 2.5 is not a bad line. Jack, can you give your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I was just going to say, generally speaking, 3 is the most key number in football. 3.5, you want to look dogs. 2.5, you're usually looking favorites because it's that field goal margin. So yeah, 2.5 is a great number if you like the Falcons.
For sure. Then we considered making Houston our pick for this as well. But since we both already mentioned them quite a bit in our own personal bets for this week, we decided to go with the Falcons. Trying to keep it a little bit different for you guys. But yeah, Houston minus 1 should be a pretty safe bet as well. against Matt Nagy and his bald ass.
All right.
You can go for it.
Okay, yeah. So one thing we wanted to do, since this is the first week, we wanted to take a shot in the dark. We're weeks away in a COVID-plagued season, but we want to see if we can guess the Super Bowl. However many weeks in advance we are, it's December. But I think the Chiefs are the closest thing to a lock you can have in the Super Bowl. Mahomes is cruising. I think when he turns it on, I don't know who's stopping him. I'm not a huge fan of Pittsburgh. I liked Baltimore, but now I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, they might struggle to make the playoffs even these days.
Yeah, facts. That's a good call. Cleveland might be a good dog look this week if you like that. But I'm going to say the Rams come out of the West. Cam disagrees with me on that. Niners fan, but not a fan of the Rams. I think the Rams are legit. I think they're the best defense in the league. I think the Pats are going to struggle to put up 20 on them tonight. This might age poorly. We're taping this before the game, but I got the Chiefs and Rams.
Yeah, so my picks, there's no way I could pick the Lambs to make the Super Bowl after Nick Mullins embarrassed them. If you lose to Nick Mullins, you should just fold your team because that man is trash. If you hear this, Nick Mullins, please get off my team. For my pick, like Jack said, I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs. If you're not a fan of a team in the AFC and you pick someone else besides the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl, I'd like to hear your argument because I just don't see how anybody can beat them. Mahomes has proven time and time again, no matter what offenses are put in his way, when the big moment comes up, I don't see how you can stop him. And with the Patriots looking a little weaker this year, I just don't see anybody being able to beat the Chiefs out of the AFC. In the NFC, obviously the Saints are, one of the favorites, but I don't want to just be mainstream and just pick the basic team that, has the best record in both divisions. It's kind of a little bit of a cop-out. So I decided to go with the Packers. Obviously, I can't pick the Rams, and I can't pick the Seahawks because, I'm a Niners fan. This would hurt my soul to see those two teams win the Super Bowl. So I'm going with the Packers. I think the Packers had a very good chance last year, actually. If they didn't run into the Niners' incredible run game last year, I don't think that anybody would have been able to stop them in the NFC. So with that said, this year, the Niners are not looking like great. They're going to make the playoffs. And nobody else in the NFC really has, I'd say, a dominant run game. And that's been the Packers' weakness. And I think when you get into a shootout, you kind of have to go with the best QB. And I think we're seeing a very motivated Aaron Rodgers this year. That Jordan Love pick kind of pissed him off. So I think the Packers will be able to overcome some pretty strong teams in the NFC. You still have the Saints. You have some good quarterbacks and Russell Wilson and that kind of thing. But I think when it gets down to it, we're going to see two of the best QBs in the league go head-to-head in the Super Bowl this year.
Absolutely. I'm salivating at the prospects of a Mahomes-Rodgers Super Bowl. That would be quite fun. Hopefully the Rams can win the West to piss you off and so I can win a futures bet I've placed. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Sure. So I think that's going to do it for our picks this week, guys. But just a little bit of, kind of housekeeping sort of thing. You'll be able to see here. He's going to be on the screen. Eddie's going to put it up there for us in editing. You'll see my Instagram, Jack's Instagram, our Twitters. We're going to start our own personal Twitter as well for Cheat the Spread. It's going to be a little bit separate from 613 Sports. We'll be posting our picks to there. Also, go follow the 613 Sports _613 Sports on Instagram. We'll be posting all of our picks every week to there as well, so you guys can keep track and kind of keep up with us. But yeah, like we said, just going forward, we're going to sprinkle in some more sports, some more different leagues and stuff like that. Keep interesting, but we don't want to get too embarrassed in our first week. So hopefully we can all do well and win some money this week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cam. I'll see you next week, and best of luck with your wagers, guys.
Yeah, I'm leaving. Ice on me, man. I got diamonds, but they say that